They say knowledge is power, but you need the wisdom to understand what this actually means. Welcome to the Decoding Health Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Urban A. Kiernan. Each week, we will share the stage with renowned experts as we dismantle the black box of knowledge and unravel the complexities of science and its practical applications in our daily life. This show is committed to illuminating topics ranging from personal health and wellness to cutting-edge biopharmaceutical advancements and beyond. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Decoding Health Podcast. I am your host as always, Dr. Urban A. Kiernan, just leading you for the next hour so each and every one of you can be the best version possible. Today I've got a very unique guest on the show. He's the founder and CEO of an organization called Professionals at Play. He's a leadership coach, TEDx speaker. Okay, so you guys got to pay attention to that. And he is a self-described professional problem solver. I got to speak to him once. He and I really clicked. So, we're here. He's really big on storytelling, behavioral psychology, and this concept which he calls edutainment. So I've heard of the education before, but edutainment is something that's a little bit different that he's going to dump into on this. So everybody, please welcome Mr. Geoff McLachlan. Welcome. Yep. Welcome to. I tried to get a little bit of a Scottish roll into there. I don't know if it came off. I don't know if it came off. Well, it's because your name, even the way you spell Geoff. And even pronouncing it, that's very Scottish. So, I'm trying to channel my inner William Wallace or something like freedom. No.
Freedom. Hey, are we all
so, nonetheless, hey, Geoff, welcome to the Decoding Health. Just please do a favor, introduce yourself a little bit more. Tell us a little bit your story. Like, how'd you end up as a TEDx speaker, and everything? Like, just let us know, and then we're going to dive into your bullet points here, and we'll rock and roll.
Awesome. Well, I'm Geoff McLachlan. All my friends call me Geoff. If I'm traveling and I'm working with students, they all call me Sasquatch. Although for the first time this year, Sasquatch, because I live in the mountains of North Idaho. I'm out in the woods all the time. I've got pretty big feet. I'm only 6'1", but my feet indicate that I should be a lot taller. Which wasn't the case. I don't know how that happened. But I just had, for the first time this year, I had a kid. I said, my kids call me Sasquatch. And some kid goes, I don't know. Should probably turn to Yeti because you're looking a little grizzled. I was like, okay, thanks. So Sasquatch or Yeti. I am the founder of Professionals at Play. And I'm CEO, and I'm the proprietor of that organization. And my whole job is I get to go around the world and talk to people about the power of play and how it helps us with our mental, physical, and emotional health. And I work a lot with students, which is the edutainment part, because when you're working with kids, a huge part of it is if they're not entertained, they get bored very quickly. And so education plus entertainment, edutainment. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 21 years now. Started off in education as a teacher and quickly realized that the classroom was not going to be the place where I wanted to be. As much as I loved education, I got real stir crazy in a classroom. And after about 6 months in the same classroom, I kind of went a little crazy, and I started saying, hey, I can't be in the classroom anymore. So kids, let's go. We're going to go out on a hike. And I would take the kids and we'd go play on the playground and hike and do things and go outside and be physically active. And I found that when we took the kids, the physical activities actually helped them to focus more. That I didn't have the kids that were, oh my gosh, ADD, ADHD, all the fun things. When they were physically active, that was how they started to learn. And so I started to do a lot more classes outside, which of course led to many teachers saying, why isn't Geoff in class? I had a principal that was very supportive, but also said, hey, you got to be in your classroom. That's where the teaching has to happen. And I went, are you sure? And she said, yeah, that's kind of the rules. And I was like, I don't recall ever signing a contract that said I have to do class in the classroom. And so we kind of got into little arguments there. But really what it was is that it turned out that I was teaching kindergarten, and 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds play is their natural form of learning. Yep. And so I think that as human beings, play is one of the greatest ways that we learn about like human optimization. How do we push our bodies further? We actually have to play with what we can do physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. All of that is play based. And so I've made play the central piece of my organization. And so that's what I do. I work with organizations. I've worked with multi-billion-dollar companies, and I've worked with 5-year-olds and everything in between. And so it's just a blast. I love it. And I got to go on a TEDx. I got to do a TEDx, which was completely by accident. I wasn't expecting that. I had a friend who did one. He said, you should try out. And I said, okay, cool. When is it? And he goes, here's the application. And the application was due the next day. And so I just out of the blue, okay, here we go. What's your topic? Play, how it can change the world. What's your big idea? Play is for everyone. And they went, okay, cool. And I don't even remember what I wrote on my application, but I got an email saying, hey, you've been selected as one of the people that we would like to actually do an in-person interview with to talk about your subject. And so I went in and they said, you're the third or the last group cohort to go through this process. And then we'll select 10 speakers out of all 4 of the cohorts. And I said, okay, cool. And I showed up, and I didn't get the same email as everybody else. The email I got said, here's your topic. Be ready to just share your idea and introduce yourself to the group. And I got there, and everybody else had their entire TEDx already written out and ready to perform. And I went, I don't think what happened. So I literally put down 3 bullet points on a piece of paper, and I went up and introduced myself, and I did what became my TEDx for them. And they went, oh my gosh, that's awesome. And so if you go watch the TEDx, it is, I like to say it's the smallest amount of actual usable information. Everything else is I'm just facilitating an experience, a play experience for 500 people. So took 500 people and turned them into friends in less than 5 minutes.
But I'm assuming there was a lot of storytelling that was a part of that. And that's the way people learn, is through stories, if they're a captive audience. And sorry for like interrupting you here, but honestly, I didn't realize some of these aspects on this, and the simple fact that you work from CEOs to 5-year-olds, and in some cases that's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. It really is.
To be honest with you, there's some of the behavior of these individuals, but regardless, though, I think it's really fascinating the approach that you were taking with these young children, because my son, he's twice gifted. Mm-hmm. And so he has accommodation to kind of help him out. It's like he's able to go, and he has an obstacle course that he does. He has to go from the classroom to it, and it's a part of his accommodations. He goes from his classroom on the specific route, checks in at the office, and then does the court backward, because he needs to get that energy out. And when you go and you look, because like ADHD medication, it's
horrible.
prevalent out there, but when you sit there and you understand the way those medication works, it's a you're trying to get these kids to calm down, but you're giving them a stimulant. Like college kids take these drugs to pull all-nighters.
Yeah.
Stimulant. So you want to increase brain activity so that the body and brain are matched in energy levels. Well, how about you do this? You've got the brain here doing this thing, and you've got the body up here. How about we just tire out the body a little bit and get the body to come down, rather than ramping up the brain to this other level and all of the potential side effects? No, it works. And for some families, it's a saving grace. By all means, if this is what works for you, I'm very libertarian. If this is what works for you, great. Go and freaking do it, as long as it's not hurting anybody. But here's this alternative option, because this whole concept, neurodivergent, it's becoming, regardless of where it fits on the spectrum of everything neurodivergent, it's epidemic, to be honest with you. And parents are ill-equipped. We don't know how to handle this. It's just like, I don't know. And you go and you take classes on it, and, theory and lecture is one thing, but when you're tired and you're stressed out, and my wife is just like, oh, you need to go and listen to all these books. And it's just like, well, I'm a Gen Xer.
Yep.
I deal with things a different freaking way, and I'm very
Yep.
direct on everything. And it's just like, well, no, you need to go and frame these things on other things. And it's just like, hey, wait a second, are you aware of what our life looks like? I don't have time to sit down and explain and get buy-in from our kid that we need to get into the car and get to this next appointment. It's just like, that'll take a freaking hour, and I don't have hours to. It's just like, hey, guess what? We're going to this appointment.
Mhm.
You are going to put your shoes on, and we're getting out the door in the next 5 minutes. So whatever you need to do, if it's go to the bathroom, eat a snack, pick your nose, whatever, I don't care. It's
Yep.
getting done in this window of time. Are
Yep.
we on the same page? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up. Okay, good. You understood me. We're
Go.
out of here. And
Yep.
that's the way, that's the way I operate. It leads to like, a certain level of dysfunction, but within the household, but it is what it is. And you're a devout husband and father. You know
Yep.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
You could have the perfect kids, and you as parents will always disagree on parenting.
Oh yeah.
Regarding on this. And so sorry for being so long-winded. I wanted to set all of this premise because you've been doing this for 20 freaking years.
Yep.
And a lot has changed in our society in 20 years. And a part of it is due to these types of things.
Mhm.
Okay. Out there. What are you seeing in your world regarding the influence? Because you deal with children, and there are functional MRI studies that are coming out regarding the use of those devices and the way the brain is like horrifying.
Yeah.
Horrifying. What are you seeing on this before we kind of jump into everything else? Because our audience needs to know this.
Mm-hmm. So I actually started in 2013. It's like I got my first iPhone. When I got my first iPhone, I was like, this thing's pretty cool. And then I was able to get on Facebook on my iPhone. And I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. I can check in with my friends. And then I started to go, oh, this is so easy for my brain. I like this. This is fun. And get the likes, do all the things. And I went immediately. I started doing a little bit of research, and I found out that that all of the high level executives at Apple, none of them allowed their own children to have any of their products.
Yep.
And then I went a little bit deeper, and I found out that they had an entire, I don't know what the correct term, school, paddock, fish, I don't know, whatever the term is for a bunch of lawyers, a hellhole, I don't know, something like that, of all these lawyers. They had 200 lawyers on a full-time retainer based on the ethics of the device itself, the ethics of the cell phone. And I thought, wait a minute, if they've got that many people on retainer for the ethics of it, they know something we don't. Yeah. And so I started talking about it very early about how this is not going to be good for young people. This is not going to be good for the human mind and humans in general. We're not meant, biologically, we are not meant to be in groups of millions of people. We are not meant to be connected when we're not really connected. We're connected via this thing, a screen, to an avatar of someone that may or may not even be a real human being. We are not meant to have the connections all the way across the world unless we've actually physically been in connection with that human being and we got to know them. It's a very different thing. So the human mind is still very primitive. We are primitive beings living with godlike technology. And it's terrifying because now what I'm seeing is through a couple of different things. One is, part of it is technology. Part of it is parenting. Part of it is the prevalence of drug use. And I'm going to, not drug use, but pharmaceutical intervention with young kids. And then another part,
you just talked about, exactly.
Which we just talked about. And another part is the way that the playground has changed. So if you think we're Gen X, right? We had a different playground than you see today. The playgrounds are now safe. The playground is a place where you don't get hurt, where there's always a parent around. And if there's any problem, they're going to come in and solve the problem for you. So now the kids, they lack resilience. They lack the ability to actually communicate. They lack the ability to empathize with somebody because somebody else comes in and solves the problem. They lack the ability to actually think and solve their own problems. Everything is a revert to the authority. If an authority says it, it must be true. And I'm seeing the mental health and wellness of young people decline very rapidly. So much so, I don't even know the statistics. They keep changing, but it's astronomical, the amount of mental health issues that this generation is having, with not only like, depression, anxiety. I mean, you got kids that can't order off of a menu because they're so anxious that they might get it wrong. I'm like, just order a damn milkshake. It's not hard. Get what you want.
Pick what flavor, you're ordering a milkshake, just pick the damn flavor.
Yeah.
But I need to ask this question for you. So is it a lack of problem solving skill, or is it the simple fact that they don't have to struggle? It's like, I remember my playground as a kid, you could literally get castrated on half of the things that we played on. I remember in elementary school, we had this thing. It was like basically two telephone poles and a log across the top, and there were tires chained together. It was probably 10, 15 feet into the air. We would climb up to the top and we would freaking jump off. It's like jumping off the roof of a house. And that's what we did for fun. And to be honest with you, there's a few times you hit the ground and you would think that, you just shit yourself. Pardon my French. I just shit myself. I hit the ground so hard. But then once you recovered, it was just like, wow, that was fun. I'm going to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to understand, like, with what you're seeing, is it an actual aspect of problem solving, or is it we're going to toughen you up because you are going to get scrapes, bruises, bloody nose. It's a part of life, and we can't wrap you in plastic.
You cannot be a bubble boy, right? You can't just be the misnomer of safety. Safety is like, safetyism is like a horrible concept, because we live in a dangerous world. If you think about it, the reason we have anxiety as a human is a safety mechanism. Like, if you think about, like, long ago when we were like out on the plains, anxiety, all of a sudden, that little sixth sense, that little tingle of like something's wrong, usually meant there might be something out there trying to eat you. And that was a good sense of anxiety. That was a safety, like an actual self-preservation chemical reaction in your body that kicked off fight or flight. And you had to decide, do I live or die? And how do I do that? And sometimes you guessed right, and sometimes you guessed wrong. And if you guessed wrong, you were out of the gene pool. Your spidey sense didn't work. And guess what? That gene pool stopped. And then the next ones that did live procreated and created more better sensitive people who were understanding that concept. Now, somebody goes, oh my gosh, I have anxiety because I can't order the right kind of food, or I'm just worried about what other people are going to think about me. That is not a safety mechanism. So then they get a pharmaceutical replacement for something that says, okay, cool. Now you don't have to feel things. Now you don't feel stuff, and you've got literal zombies walking around. Like, you see it, you can watch it. Watch somebody who's on some of those medications, those psychotropic medications, and they're zombies. They don't feel anything. There's no joy. There's no happiness. There's nothing. Yeah. They don't cry. I've been watching some of those, like, oh, my dad just died and it's really sad, but I can't cry. What you're missing out on a human experience. You're missing out on how do you heal as a human being, because you've numbed it so much that you can't actually interact with your feelings. And a whole lot of that also stems from very early being allowed to fail, being allowed to understand the consequences of failure. The consequences of failure are you either A, get back up, or you quit. Those are the two consequences. You either get back up and keep going, try it again, try. Now you succeed. That's a life lesson. That's resilience. That's taught to us through thousands and thousands of errors. And we learn how to be a better human. And now the students that are young people that are saying that aren't allowed to fail, that somebody comes in and solves the problem or fixes it, they don't get that sense of resilience. They don't get the sense of, I can do stuff. They get the sense of, oh, if it's too hard, I just won't even try. And somebody else will come in and do it for me. So you get this apathy and this lack of engagement with the actual physical world. I mean, I'm like you. I grew up on dangerous playgrounds. Like, our swing sets were way high. Our slides were made out of metal. I call it the slide of death. And after 10 o'clock in the morning, it's the flaming slide of death, right? The merry-go-round, all the things like, scrapes, bruises, broken bones, lost teeth, like concussions. That was the norm for our generation. But they started
100%.
making it. Yeah. But that's how you learned. You learned everything that you need to know to be a human on the playground. You really did. You learned how to actually solve your own problems, how to get up, how to form a team, how to negotiate, how to fight fair, how to establish rules that everybody got along. You learned that there is a social hierarchy. There actually is. And that's important as human beings. Not everybody's going to be on the same playing field. If we're going to go out and play football, I want the dude that's 6'8", 300 pounds and built like freaking Dwayne the Rock Johnson. I want that guy on my team. I don't want the kid that's like 3'2", 17 pounds soaking wet and can't run. I want the big dude because I want to win, right? You learn that there are different skill sets, and it wouldn't be fair to say, hey, let's make the game equal for everybody so that this little guy has the same chance for success. What you do is you say, great, you're on the team and now you have a role. And we give him a role and we say, all right, your job is this. And maybe he's a part of the trick play where we're going to go to the big guy, and we hand it off to the little guy, and the big guy starts running and everybody tries to tackle him, and the little guy goes around the end and scores a touchdown.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you learn that, guess what? Everybody has a part to play in our society. What is your part? I'm not spectacularly gifted with technology. I'm not going to go out of my way to try and figure out how to computer code and do all the things. But there's other people that go, oh my gosh, I love playing on a computer. It's just like, I get so excited about being able to create code and do all these things. Cool. I'll send all that work to them. I'll be like, you do that. That's great. But when you want to come and do something like get out of the office, maybe get off the computer, come with me. We'll go fish. We'll go swim. We'll go hike. We'll do something. And so we need each other to help society run, but understanding that not everybody has the same equal opportunity for everything. So I think that's one of the big things that playgrounds have done. And as they've changed and become safer, you'll notice that on playgrounds, there's no hard surfaces now. It's plastic. There's no points. There's no corners. Nothing goes very high. Everything is low. The ground is now padded and soft. There's nothing that spins fast. Everything's got a governor on it, so you can't go super fast. There's hardly anything to hang from. So it's just everything has changed, and I don't want to say it's created a softer human being, but it's created a softer human being. And and that's just, it's really hard because it's affecting mental health as well as physical health. And so that's one of the challenges I'm seeing right now with young people. You've got some that are great, some that are doing totally fine. And you go, what's the difference? Why is this one doing fine and this one not? And you can almost always go back to, hey, what's the parenting like? What environment did they grow up in? Did their parents make them do hard things?
Right.
Did their parents challenge them? Did their parents say, you fell down? Cool. What are you going to do about it? Or did the parents run over and go, oh, no, baby, you're okay. Oh, it's okay. Oh, I'll get it for you. There's a time and place for that. But there's also a time and place to say, hey, yeah, go ahead, jump off that rock, see what happens. And when they jump off the rock, they go, ow. And you go, yeah, that wasn't smart, was it?
Right.
And then they learn.
So I'm going to ask you a very, very controversial question here because, it is 2026 and things have changed. And I'm all for equality between, men and women. But at the end of the day, men and women are very, very different. Yeah. And I see this, and I'm not the only one that sees this. Like, Jordan Peterson, love him or hate him or whatever it is, talking about the emasculation of the American male and the overmasculation of females. And this has a huge impact in the role in the household. And as I already said, like even in my household, I'm a Gen X dad. And, God bless you for being able to work with children. Like I cannot teach children unless it's to learn how to use the F-bomb in very, very creative ways. It's just like, man, it's just like their parents would be impressed at how they could utilize that word in a sentence. That's me because my tolerance, and it's just the way I am. It's just like my tolerance of like, this is now the third time I'm having to explain the same thing to you. Everybody else, where is the malfunction here? It's like, because I feel offended because you wouldn't listen to me the previous times. And so that's just me, but I know where that limit. So I don't put myself into that situation other than through family. And I have to. And again, it leads to its own set of problems. Because you had mentioned, okay, it comes down to the parenting. Are you seeing what I just laid out, this weird I classify it as weird reallocation of roles within
Mhm.
the household having a negative impact in this next generation of individuals. And again, doing this for 20 years, you've seen the full gambit from somebody little into full grown adult. And we've got this situation with the Gen Zers in which you've got 35-year-olds still living at home with mom and dad. And it's
Yeah.
not because that they some of it is financial, I'll
Mhm.
grant that. But then
Mhm.
some of it is just they are incapable of surviving on their own. And I remember I was 18. Boom, I left the house. I
Mhm.
came back after my first summer of college and I said to myself, never freaking again. I need to be out there in this world doing whatever it is. And that
Mhm.
was my personal choice. But that's not the way anymore. You've got young people who didn't get their first driver's license and were chauffeured around by mom and dad until like 18, 19, even 20 years old.
Mhm.
I've seen. And it's just like where's the fun in that? So sorry for like painting that thing so broad. I want your expert opinion on that because I view this as extremely challenging that
Mhm.
we need to get a beat on because it's not just what's going to happen in the family, it's affecting society because hard men make good times makes weak men, and
Yep.
then the cycle repeats itself.
Yep.
And it's like, shit, I don't want to have undone all of the hard stuff that I've had to do in my life because out of love and wanting to create something nicer
Mhm.
for my next generation. And it's like, after the fact, it's, I think we might have effed up here.
Yes. And that's the hardest thing about it is my dad and my mom were teachers. And when we were growing up, my mom, when she was pregnant with us, she stopped teaching for a few years. I think it was 4 years, when we were born to stay home with us, meaning we were surviving on one teacher, paycheck. And we had to have a garden. We had to have, this is the only way we could survive, right? We
Sure.
actually had a couple acres. We had a really nice garden in the back. The neighbors down the street, we would trade potatoes throughout the year. We'd give them potatoes and they would give us fresh milk. So we'd get like a fresh jar of milk every morning. And it was not the milk that you see now. Everybody look at this and go, what is that yellow liquid? It's like, this is fresh from the cow milk.
Yep.
We'd make cream, butter, and have the milk. And that was like, that's how we survived. And but I remember like I think I was 11 years old when I got my first job, and I got a job at a farm. My dad's like, congratulations, you got a job at the farm. I'm like, sweet. And the farmer says, great, you got to be here every morning at 5 a.m. And I said, all right, Dad, you're going to give me a ride. And he goes, no, I'm not. It's your job. You got a bike. And I was like, but it's like 4 miles away. And he's like, yeah, well, you probably need to leave at about 4:30 in the morning then. And I got my alarm clock and I got on my bike and I'd ride to work, and then I'd work and I'd change pipes and I'd pick fruit and I'd do all the things that we did at the farm. And then I'd get on my bike and go back home, grab some food, do whatever I needed to do. And then I'd go back at 5 o'clock at night and change the pipes again in the field. And I did that all through high school until I finally got a car. But that taught me hey, here's a responsibility. You are responsible for these things. And the farmer, he was a great guy. He's still one of my lifelong friends. I absolutely love him. But he honestly didn't give a shit about our feelings. He didn't. He didn't care. He's like, I don't care about your feelings. Do the damn
You have a
job.
job to do.
You got a
I'm
job to do.
paying
I
you.
hired you for a reason. I'm paying you $4 an hour. You need to do the darn work. So I thought that was a lot of money at the time. I was very impressed.
Oh yeah.
But that sense of responsibility and that sense of ownership in what I had to do was a great growth experience as a young man. And I translated that into every job I ever did. The work sometimes was horrible. The bonus is that at 11 years old, they said, here's the truck keys, go change the pipes in the fields. The fields are all over the town. So we had to go drive to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm 11 years old. I don't have a driver's license. He's like, well, great. Don't get caught. I was like, oh my gosh. So,
Well, so I grew up in a farming community, so that was actually going to be my next question to you: is when did you actually start driving? It's because by the time I was in junior high, there was a lot of my farm friends. They could already drive a stick shift,
oh yeah.
and it was just like, what is that thing? Like, I don't know. And then, okay, fine, I learned to drive a stick shift, and it's like, okay,
So our friends owned a dairy farm, and the very first time I ever drove a stick shift, I was 8 years old, and my dad took us out. He had they were doing hay season, so he was out on the tractor. My dad pulls up next to him, and he goes, "Hey, I'm getting low on fuel, Jeff. I need you to go pick up the truck over there, bring it over, and we're going to refuel the tractor." And I said, "Okay, cool." And he goes, "Keys are in it." So I was like, "Okay, cool. I can do this," because I'd driven my grandparents had a golf cart. And I was like, I can do that. I can turn the golf cart on. I knew how to do that. I'm good. And it had 3 pedals. And I looked at it and I was like, golf cart only has 2 pedals. I don't know what are there 3 pedals for? So I ran back across the field. And I said, there's 3 pedals. And he goes, yeah, figure it out. I said, oh, okay. And I ran back and I tried to start the truck, and he had it in gear, and of course it jumped. Yeah. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I ran back across the field and like, it's doing something. And he's like, and of course he like dropped a bunch of F-bombs and yelled at me and made me, feel like this big. But he's like, figure it the F out. And I was like, okay. And I ran back across the field. And at 8 years old, I taught myself how to drive a stick in a field, managed to somehow figure out that the clutch was how that worked, and drove over
the clutch when you turned the engine on.
that was a big thing. I was like, that one's gas, this one's go, that one's stop. That one's got to do something. So when I pushed it in and I started, I was like, oh, and then I let it out. And of course, I probably killed it 25 times. But that was failure, keep going, because I knew if I went back, I was going to get yelled at and that there was a consequence. So I had to succeed. And eventually it took me probably a half hour to get the truck around. And then I pulled into the tractor, and I was like a half inch away from the tractor. And he's like, you didn't have to park so damn close to the tractor, you son of a bitch. Just yelled at me. I was like, I got the truck over here. So
just be happy. I'm 8 years old.
Exactly.
It's like people are all about like anti-theft devices. You want anti-theft device? Get a manual transmission. People will get in there. Your car is fine. Nobody's going to know how to freaking move it in this day and age.
Nope. No, they're not. And that's if I tell that story to people and say, I started driving, like my first time was at 8, I started driving around the town at 11 years old. A lot of people, unless they're from a farm community, would go, that's illegal. You can't do that. That's irresponsible. I said, no, it created ultimate responsibility, because I was responsible for 1, the truck, 2, safety, 3, getting the job done. Yeah. And that created a sense of responsibility. It created a sense of ownership in my abilities to do the job, to just simply be a competent human. And now it's fascinating, because I mean, I've got 2 boys. I've got a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I'm trying to raise them to be like, hey, work ethic. If you can do right now, if you can just do work, if you can outwork somebody, guess what? You're going to go way farther ahead than somebody who's not even willing to try, because It's hard. And I'm like, we do hard things because we can. We do hard things because it makes you a better human. We do hard things because it makes you harder to kill. And that's an important thing. So resilience through doing hard things. And so, I mean, we've got our boys in jiu-jitsu. They love that. They're in sports. They both play three different sports. I make them go cold plunging with me every now and then, which they don't really like, but they'll do it occasionally. Sure. Yeah. So I like to challenge them. And I instituted something I call man cards in my family. So anytime they did something, I was like, that's pretty manly. You get a man card. So they've gotten man cards for broken bones. They've gotten man cards for learning how to drive a stick shift before the age of 16. They got a man card for getting stitches. They got a man card. Well, they'll get a man card eventually if they ask a girl out. That'll be a good one. We're still waiting on that one. But those are kind of the things I'm seeing, right? Where like young men, like and another thing that changed, and I know this is kind of weird, but we stopped with the celebrations of manhood. Like you look at kids nowadays, most of them I don't know about most of them, but a lot of them, even at 16 years old, don't want to drive a car.
Are you sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, want to reclaim your metabolic health, but you really don't have the time or the ability to eat as clean as you would like or spend hours in the gym? Well, here's a new biohack that I've implemented as a part of my life. Just by including these two products as a part of my daily routine, I am able to achieve my health and fitness goals by doing nothing. Protocol is all natural, it's simple, comes with a money-back guarantee. If this is something that is of interest to you, click on the link below and let's learn how to feel great together. Yeah. And I brought up that, like, I literally got my driver's license on my 16th birthday.
Yep.
And I remember walking into the high school and all of my friends waiting by my locker. Did you get it? Yes or no? Because your freedom is our freedom. It's like
Exactly.
we're breaking out of jail here. And it's just like, let's go and cut class. And it's just like, no, we're not cutting class because my dad works here at the high. He will know before I know that I cut class,
Yep.
So that's a situation. And again, it's the whole thing. It's that fear of repercussion. It's just like, I empathize with teachers right now because they've been summarily handicapped when it comes to discipline and the maintenance of order, because now you're dealing with the parents and potential litigation and all of this stuff. And even with the principal, part of it is she might have actually truly agreed with you, but ultimately everything that happens at that school is on her neck. And it's just like, I don't want to deal with the BS of parents coming back and being like, you're doing this. And it's just, and them not understanding it's actually what's best for your child, but they don't understand that. So maybe the 5-year-old is the parent that needs to come into the class and get a little bit of extra, back to my whole comment regarding the CEOs and a 5-year-old, what's really the difference on this. And so, like, all of this stuff is like ultimately really fascinating because we as a society are, to be honest with you, we're truly struggling on this. And my household is no exception on this. It's because it's freaking everywhere. If it's not, even if I didn't buy this for my kid or a tablet, there are kids who have it in school. And this is what they do for fun in school. And you don't think that doesn't have a bleed over into all of this stuff. So, like, what you're seeing is this highly, influential, problem solver on this. Like, what is it that you're seeing and what are you proposing as a part of the solution, rather than, okay, everybody throw your iPhone, we can't go to that extreme. But at the same token too, we need to understand the magnitude of the problem and implement with us as the adults the appropriate level of responsibility and accountability on our, like, I'm really confused is how there are some, it's people are going to get mad with this. I see it more in the Gen Zers. Excuse me, the millennials, not with the Gen Xers, is this lack of personal accountability. But the level of, it's best, I'm going to date myself here. It's like Carl Lewis doing the broad jump. It's just like the difference between the Gen Xers of what we did in accountability. And, like, I guarantee it, if you fucked up, Geoff, you'd be like, yeah, that was stupid. That's on me. And I'm the exact same way. It's just like, once I see that, oh man, that was a bad call on my part, I'll own it. I'll own it 100%, because that's the only way you can get better, rather than deflect. Oh, it's somebody else. It's somebody else. It's just like bullshit. It was you. It was you. I see this huge divergence. And then even to the Gen Zers, even a further divergence where it's just like, I can't even identify with that. Like, so what are you seeing potential solutions on that? So a viewer on this can, who's maybe millennial, maybe Gen Zer. Okay. I need to, because Gen Zers now are turning 30.
That's scary.
It's like, no, it is scary. And we're getting it to the point because we think, the baby boomers are old, but to be honest with you, the baby boomers, other than, the healthcare aspect and, all of that stuff, to be honest with you, they are becoming less and less relevant to our society. And it's us that are the next ones that are going to be kind of like stepping aside. Hard to say this. Like, we were joking about it last night at jiu-jitsu. I've got 3 years before I get free coffee at McDonald's. Yeah. Yeah. I can move into a retirement community and be around the second highest demographic of STDs that are out there.
That's terrifying, right?
It is terrible. It's kind of gross, to be honest with you. But to be honest with you, it's just like, that is the state of reality, and we're handing keys over to people that can't drive a stick shift.
Right. Yeah. That part is terrifying. The responsibility, I think, millennials, every generation thinks the generation after is complete idiots. Like, that's like the boomers looked at Gen X and went, you guys are just idiots. You're like, yeah, oh my gosh. And then we look at the millennials and go, you guys are just idiots. And millennials look at Gen Z and go, you guys are just idiots. And then all of a sudden Gen Z's looking at Alpha going, you guys are just idiots. Right. But then all of a sudden some of the Gen Alphas going, well, wait a minute. Like, we don't really want this. And they're like voluntarily starting to say, we don't want the phones anymore. Like, let's just be together. Like, one of the cool things that I've just seen happening this year, I'm sure you remember hacky sacks, like the little beanbag thing that you kick it around.
That's a skill.
It's a skill, but it's also like them playing together. I'm not kidding. I went to the state track meet and I saw dozens of groups with 10 or 12 kids around, and they're all kicking around a hacky sack, 0 phones. Nobody's got their phone out. They're all like actively doing things and like they're playing together. So those moments, they're actually becoming more prolific because that generation went, we don't want to be just stuck on a screen all the time. So that's something I'm seeing from like the younger generation, which I'm actually very encouraged by. It's the ones in between where there's a dependence on the screen. Yes, it has a place. It has a time. It's wonderful. We can talk to a friend across the country. We can connect with people who have similar interests, right? But then the important part is to take that relationship that you either develop online or that you've had prior to in real life, as the kids say, IRL, and actually then you can build on it. So if you've had an experience with somebody, like you've had a chance to talk to them and you've had a chance to hang out and you've eaten a meal together, or you've rolled at jujitsu, like I'm telling you right now, everybody did jujitsu, the world would be a much better place. All of a sudden we go like, okay, dude, I'm so like, every time I'm stressed out, I'm like, I'm going to go roll. Cause you know what? Somebody like trying to choke me out is like a immediate like life cure for anything that ails you. And
so did your boys get man cards for starting jiu-jitsu?
They did. They both got, they got man cards for jiu-jitsu. And then they got a man card, for winning a tournament. Even though my youngest has not actually won a tournament, but they get man cards for doing things, for accomplishing things. You get a man card if you like, you start and finish all of your chores without being told. Like, just do your stuff. This is your responsibility. Do your thing. Cool. You get a man card. And then I'll ask them, I'll be like, what's a good man card? Like, what's a man card that you'd want? And, one of my sons goes, ooh, I want to be able to shoot bullseyes at 100 yards. Like, okay, cool. That's a man card. So we put that on the list. Means we have to go practice. Means we have to do things. So we get to, spend time together in real life doing things. And then like another one said, hey, I want to be able to spend the night in the woods by myself without any equipment. I was like, wow, cool.
I don't even know if I could do that, like, without freaking out, to be honest with you.
That's a big one. And so I'm like, he hasn't done it yet. He hasn't done it. But I'm like, I always told him, I was like, hey, what would happen if I just dropped you off? I took you and like, boop, dropped you off somewhere. How are you going to make it home? How do you know which way is north? How do you know how to navigate? How do you know? Because like, honestly, people can't navigate. The skill of actual navigation, of knowing where to go, is going away. You can actually see that on brain scans. The people's, the part of the brain that's responsible for mapping and direction is shrinking because people use their Google Maps or their, thing all the time. And so they don't actually exercise that part of their brain. Like if you ask me, how do I get to my brother-in-law's house over in Seattle, Washington, 333 miles away? I can tell you the route I take. I might not know the roads, but I can give you the landmarks, and I can say, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go by this exit, and I'm going to take a right. I'm going to go up about 6 blocks, and I'm going to take another right. I'm going to go down. There's a cul-de-sac. I'm going to take a left at the cul-de-sac, and then his house is going to be 3 houses on the left. And I know how to get there because I've mapped it out in my brain. I memorized it, and I know where to go. My wife, I love. She's amazing. She's incredible, has a wonderful skill set, not directions.
Not directions.
She's
not directions.
My brother-in-law, one of her brothers, lives less than a mile away from our house. He's lived there for 7 years, and she still gets lost every time she goes to his house. She'll call me up and be like, I'm lost. And I'm like, I know.
But it's not just your wife. That's, my wife is going to, when she sees this, she's going to be, I have to have a little chat with you. I'm probably not going to get anything for a week just for admitting
we might have to edit this part out.
That's maybe I won't let her know that this episode's coming out, but regardless. So you just said something really interesting, because now you're talking about navigating from A to B, but to get from A to B, you have to be able to define what A actually is. And with what I'm experiencing with my neurodivergence in my son, okay, is I've learned that a lot of these children, they have a alternative experience in terms of determining where they fit into 3-dimensional space and time. And this is why it's really, really frustrating, because they're not, it's not to sit there and say it's right or wrong or bad. Their experience is a little bit different. And now you expect them, who's experiencing where I'm physically at right now is different than the way you're perceiving it. Now you want me to get to somewhere else. And again, this is a growing issue. Is it something with what happens in utero? Is this something as a part of our food supply, which is a very real freaking issue? Is it something regarding like all of your list of parenting, the whole 9 yards? Like, what is the contributing factor to this? And probably we will never, ever end up knowing, but we're dealing with it right now. With what I just laid out is that you've got these young individuals, they can't even fully comprehend this three-dimensional placement of their own body and the time that they are associated with. Are you seeing this, and how do you deal with that? Because there are therapeutic programs to deal with this, but now the parents, they're forking out thousands of dollars to be able to go and recenter this individual, because it's fundamentally not connecting within the functionality of our society. Again, it's not to sit there and say there's anything wrong with it, but it leads into this discourse with the way we operate here in the West in modern society. Please take a moment to address that.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. So my very first job before I actually started as a teacher, I was a paraprofessional in a special education class in a high school. And so I worked in the special education environment with kids of lots of different abilities. From, we had, just a multitude of students. A lot of them were there just for a resource. Like, hey, I just need a little bit of help with my reading, or I need a little bit of help with math. And then we had some kids that were more severe and profound. What I'm seeing now, like my wife is also in special education. She's a pediatric occupational therapist for a school district. Okay. The students that I was dealing with are very different than the students she was dealing with. Okay. My wife actually has 3 students that had DNRs, and they're elementary school students. DNRs, do not resuscitate orders, for kids, because they're so severely and profoundly impacted. She had 2 students that were clinically brain dead that they would bring to school, fully pumped, like everything was electronic. Everything on them was, the only reason that they were still alive was because of the marvels of modern medicine. She has students that are non-communicative. She has students that are like severe and profound autism, like no language at all. She is dealing with a very different kind of special education environment than what I was dealing with. But when I go to schools, I am seeing a spectrum. I know the ASD is autism spectrum disorder because it is really a spectrum. I know a lot of people. I have friends. Some of my son's best friends, some of my friends are on the autism spectrum. And for some of them, it's a gift. It's like, oh my gosh, the ability to focus, singular minded focus on something is like, wow, incredible. Then there's the great, how do I get you to have the life skills that you need to be successful so you can focus on the things that you want to? And that is a training issue. That is a, how do we work with students who, yes, may not have that spatial awareness, that sense of where am I in time and space? They have to spend time working on hard things, which is really challenging as a parent. And you have to be almost, I call it mind numbingly consistent with behaviors. What is acceptable? How do we do things? You literally have to train everything that you want to see. And you have to use positive behavior and intervention to do that. It can't be a punishment because punishment doesn't really work. It has to be a positive motivator. If you do this, then you get this. If you do this, congratulations. And everybody has some form of motivation, whether that's, time spent with somebody, whether that's words of affirmation, whether that's, touch, physical touch, whether that's a gift, whatever that is. If you can find that motivator for your kid, then you can actually look at like, great, how do we start to train? And you have to go the smallest baby step possible, the little things. So if I want my kid to be independent in, restrooming, you have to show them, you have to teach them, you have to like step by step. Here's what we do. Here's how we wash our hands. Here's what we, flush the toilet and make sure that everything's like, right. You have to teach every single step and repeat it again and again and again and again. So many times that you go, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. And then all of a sudden they'll get it. And then you go, oh, cool. Now we can add something else. You repeat, they get it. You add one tiny thing, and then you have to go back and repeat the whole process again from start to finish and add that one little next step. And I see this a lot because I do a lot of work in schools. I do a lot of work in middle schools and high schools. And because we're getting more and more students on the spectrum, it's getting harder to do specific things. So a lot of my presentations are very activity based. And so the expectation, and I always tell them right up front, I say, hey, my expectation is that you do the best that you can today. And if you need a moment, you just let me know, give me a wave, be like, I got to go for a second. And you do. And I can tell who's like, for the most part, I can usually tell who those kids are. And if there's like, noise outbursts or something like that, I'm like, hey, no big deal. It's not like it's an intentional thing. I can almost always tell who the people are that are doing it on purpose to try and get laughter from their friends. Very different thing. So learning and understanding about human behavior. So human behavior is just, I think people think it's this really complex thing. It's really not. Humans just want to be loved and cared for. Like we just want to know that we matter. Everybody does, no matter where you are, right? So if we can help people understand that concept, if we can do that in school, well, how do we do that? Well, part of it is play. Part of it is, sharing your story. How do we help kids share their story? And then specifically with me, how do I get kids to share their story with each other? So that, yes, you have that kid who's either on the spectrum or maybe has some special needs. And then you got an athlete who's like exceptionally gifted athletically, but maybe struggles in the classroom. Or you've got the kid who's got like a terrible home life and doesn't tell anybody at school, but it shows up in behaviors. How do we get those kids to all be like, get on the same page with, just be good to each other. Just be kind to each other. And it doesn't mean, and I always get pushback on this and it kind of drives me crazy. That I think a lot of people, when they talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and those kinds of things, including, I believe in including people, but sometimes people don't want to be included in things. Cool. That means we don't force them into it. But there's also equity. Great. If somebody's really tall and somebody's really short, there's a disadvantage there if we're playing basketball. That's okay. It's not right or wrong. It's just a part of being a human, right? You have to understand where your gifts lie and where somebody else's lie. Maybe, I just talked with a guy who was, I don't know, I think he's like maybe 5'4", loved sports. And he goes, hey, when I got into my freshman year, I was all of like 4'11", and I was a darn good basketball player. And I went to try out for the varsity team. And the coach looked at me, didn't even see me play basketball, just looked at me and said, "Hey, come here. You're not going to make the team because you're too small." Even though he was a hell of a point guard. He was a great shooter. He was phenomenal at defense. He was the team leader. He'd been playing with all the guys that were on varsity all their childhood growing up. The coach looked at him and didn't even give him a chance based on how he looked. And that's not fair, but it put a chip on his shoulder. And guess what? He became a very successful person because he's like, I'm going to show you. And instead of being in basketball, he played tennis, track, cross country, golf. He did all the other sports and was a pretty darn good athlete. And then he got into sports management and now works with professional athletes all over the United States. So if we look at those things, like, how do we share our stories and understand that just because I disagree with somebody doesn't mean I hate them. I just disagree. We can still be friends. And that's again, that goes, I think, all the way back to the playground. If you have to figure things out on your own, you're not going to look for the authority to tell you what's right and wrong. You're not going to look for the authority to come and solve your problems. You're going to solve them yourself. You're going to take action to solve the issue versus saying, oh, well, we need to call so-and-so because they have all the answers. I think that helps to create a full and competent human who has the ability to problem solve on their own and to recognize and realize that other people have gifts and talents in different areas. It's just about how do we create a good, solid human being who tries to make the world a better place. And we're going to disagree. We're going to disagree, sometimes passionately disagree. But if we don't talk about the things, if we don't have some sort of civility or discourse about them, then it's going to devolve into violence. And we've seen that. And so we don't want those things to happen. We want people to understand if everybody matters, then everybody matters, right? It's not about one group mattering more than another. It's like, take care of people, be a good human. I think Gen X, and I had this conversation with somebody the other day who kind of got mad at me when I said, they were like, oh my gosh, there's so much racism here. And I said, well, I travel all over the country and unfortunately I see it everywhere. And I said, it's not just, white people against people of color. I said, it's everywhere. It's like, because I talk to a lot of different people. I hang out with a lot of different people. And I said, racism is not just one area. It's not just one group against another. There's a lot of it, and it goes a bunch of different ways. And that 100%. Right. They got mad at me. They're like, no, you're wrong because you're white. And I went, we might maybe have to have a conversation. Sure. But they couldn't get past the fact that I said, it's not just here, it's elsewhere, which I was actually agreeing with them, but they saw it as like me trying to demean them. And I was like, oh, but we couldn't get past their anger over the fact that racism exists. And I went, well, our generation, Gen X, was the first generation that kind of went, yeah, we don't care if you're black or white, gay or straight. Who cares? Like, just be a good person, right? That's our generation. And then all of a sudden those things started mattering. So that's another issue that it's kind of crazy.
And I want to throw out there another Gen Xer thing because, even in the role of violence that's out there, I guarantee it, you just like as we got into scraps on the playground
all the time.
And then teachers pull you apart and it's just like, okay, are you done? Done. Okay, let's go back to playing. Yep. Okay. That is, it's like now it seems like that deep-rooted hatred, that it's not a matter of getting out your frustration and then we can get back to the civility that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's, I'm going to hate you. And even when this is over, I'm still going to hate you. And it's just like, that's not productive for anybody. And so like, again, I'm not condoning violence in any way, shape or form, but establishment of that hierarchy out there. And just the beauty of Brazilian jiu-jitsu is there's a hierarchy.
Absolutely.
Like, holy crap, that guy's gonna, my professor says this all the time. Sometimes you get put into matches where it's like, oh crap. It's just like, I don't feel like this one today, but I can't go against the hierarchy. I'm going to do this. And this is there's going to be zero enjoyment for the next 5-6 minutes, whatever that timer is set for. Mm-hmm. I just got to suck it up and bear it. And that's why the attrition rate in jiu-jitsu is so high, because people just fundamentally cannot deal with the simple fact that you suck. Oh, but guess what? That's okay. You
Yeah.
suck. The only difference between a white belt and a black belt is the black belt never freaking quit.
Yep. Yep.
We all got there. We all had our breaks, bumps and bruises. I had 4 surgeries, because of my Brazilian jiu-jitsu journey to get the black belt. And that's my journey. That doesn't have to be yours, but you have to pay your dues. And back to your point, we've on all of this, we fundamentally lost all of this. And again, I understand that these changes came through with good intentions, but I don't think it was ever thought through, or could they have thought through regarding the repercussions of all of this? Like, I don't know if you grew up with corporal punishment in school, but I sure as hell did. And I remember the first time I got sent to the principal's office. And again, I already disclosed, my dad worked in the school system. He was in charge of the community college. And so they knew everybody. And I knew when I got in trouble in school, I was going to get it at home because my dad was going to know. My dad was going to know. And he would tell my mom. And it's not that my dad would do the discipline. It was my mom that I had to worry about because that was her role in the house because she was Filipino. The Filipino women ruled the household, and I had to deal with her. But I remember in kindergarten, the first time I got sent to the principal's office, Mr. Kozak, all he did was he pulled out the big bottom drawer of his desk, and all there was in there was a wooden dowel with a bunch of straps over it. And all he did is he sat there on his desk and put his feet up on the corner of that open drawer and just looked at us. And we just stood there as a bunch of kindergartners. Like there was like 3 or I think there was 3 of us. I can't remember. Standing there looking at him. And he was staring at us very, very sternly. And then he said, whatever it is that you guys did, are you ever going to do it again? No, sir. It's because all we kept on doing is looking at the straps, looking at him, straps at him. And he didn't have to say a damn word. Lesson learned, because there was that healthy fear of we cannot challenge this. We will lose. And we fundamentally lost this. It's like you can lip off to the police. You can lip off to your teachers. You can lip off to your parents. It's like my mom was 5 feet tall. If I would have lipped off to her, like I still wouldn't be walking right now at 52.
No.
So again, it's just like I'm trying to be mindful of time here, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Geoff. I think you and I need to kind of take this offline, talk about other stuff. Like I even want to throw it there. Would you mind how old are your sons, by the way?
17 and 14.
17 and 14. Would you object to like me coming up and visiting you either next summer with my son and he can experience your thing? I can teach your kids some jujitsu as well.
That would be spectacular.
Honestly, I think because parents our children, they're programmed to tune us out. They get to that age, mom and dad are stupid. And it's just like, and other people will tell me, you don't realize who your mom and dad, you should actually build it. No. And I get it. I get it. But you can deliver the exact same message to my son and he would listen to you. Like we've read like The Way of the Warrior Kid by Jocko Willink, if you know that. And my son actually asked me, can I have an Uncle Jake?
That's awesome.
And I'm like, well, I don't have a brother and I don't have, so we're trying to find different programs that we can put, paid programs that we can put him into, in which you will have these people go, because he won't do it for me. But he's asking to have somebody else do it for him. And so, all of these things, whether it be shooting, wildlife, snorkeling, like all of those types of real experiences that I just can't get here onto this. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. I think that would be huge growth across the board.
That'd be awesome. I could even arrange it that you could come and be a guest professor at our gym, and you could maybe run a seminar or something on a weekend and be like, hey, let's go get some rolling. Because like we've got a great little jiu-jitsu community here with lots of people in it. We got a phenomenal kids program, and we like that community has grown exponentially just because of the way the community works. Like everybody cares about each other. They do things outside of the gym together. I mean, next month, I'm actually announcing a jiu-jitsu tournament here. Like,
really?
Oh yeah. We've got one promoter in the area that they wanted to do something different because they're like, let's get a bunch of people who actually want to do jiu-jitsu and compete, and let's give them cash prizes. And so now, oh yeah, so we have paid cash prizes. So they will put together matches from like more of the elite level jiu-jitsu practitioners in the area, but they'll go all the way down to like blue belt and be like, if you want to compete in this tournament, there's an entry fee, and the entry fee is generally like $100, but that $100 goes to the pot, and then the winner of each match makes money. And as the matches get higher, the prize money gets higher. And I'd have to double check, but I think that they're getting close to 5 figures. I think they're getting close to that 1,000. No, they're not. Sorry, not 5 figures, 4 figures. They're getting close for like local jiu-jitsu tournament, like $1,000 for the winner of the black belt. Right. And these are guys that are, their dads, their brothers, their uncles, they're, firefighters and teachers and people who just love jiu-jitsu. And it's an opportunity for them to come and show off their skills and showcase them. And it's just a really cool community. So yeah, that'd be awesome to set up something where we could roll a little bit. And, you can see how incredibly, I'm only a 4-stripe blue belt working on that purple belt. Only had one surgery so far.
Just don't quit. I could walk from Phoenix to New York one step at a time. And that's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu story. So, hey, Geoff, absolutely love it. Everybody, Geoff McLachlan here. Really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Geoff, if somebody wanted to find you, where can they find you, my friend?
They can find me on Instagram at Professionals at Play. I'm also on LinkedIn at, I believe that's also Professionals at Play. If you look me up, or Geoff McLachlan, spelled Geoff McLachlan. They can look me up there, and I'm on social media and websites and all the fun stuff. So I always respond to people as soon as I figure out how to find that spot in the technologies that I have.
You got it. All right. Hey, thank you so very much for your time, sharing your story and your wealth of practical knowledge in today's society, because we are suffering because of it. And hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys got questions, comments, drop them down below. Love to hear from you guys. And ladies and gentlemen, appreciate your guys' attention. Geoff, love talking to you, my friend. I'm glad you and I crossed paths. This is going to be an awesome experience going forward. And we will catch each and every one of you guys again on the other side.